This is Concho and I'm Jeff. We're from Arizona Hot Homestead and we are Homestead Homies. And we are watching Off Grid with Doug and Stacy.
Hey guys, it's Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. I'm Doug. Thanks for sending in those intros. We really do appreciate it. We're getting a big kick out of them, so thanks again, and we do appreciate it. So today we're going to be talking about bees. I'm going to give you guys a couple of ideas and a couple of ways if you handle bees on how you can fight naturally the hive beetle. Okay, the hive beetle is a pretty destructive little critter. It'll get inside of your hive and it'll actually become friends with the bees and can wreak a lot of havoc. So we're going to go over to the hives right now. We're going to talk about some of the steps that we've taken to deter that problem, and so far that's working pretty good. So what we have here are the hives, and we have 4 hives, and what I've done is I've moved them. Now normally they recommend that you don't move hives, and if you do, if you're in the area, you have to move it like 2 miles or more. We've successfully moved our hives a couple of times, and there's a few things that you can do to do that. One thing is, you know, do it in the winter time when they're a little more dormant, not when it's severely cold outside, but just when it's a little bit cold outside, because if you do it when it's really too cold and you knock their nucleus and they come apart, you risk the chance of them maybe freezing to death, okay? Because they need to stay in a tight cluster so they stay warm, okay? So another thing that you'll want to do is, what we do is we tape them all up so they can't come out of any of the holes, and then we'll move them, and then we'll let them sit there for about a day or two, and then we'll place obstacles in front of the hives, so that way when they come out, they have to move around that obstacle to get out, and then that resets their GPS you know, thing here. So that's one way to do it, you know, that you can successfully move your hive. So what happened was, I'm going to talk about a few things about hive beetles. One is that hive beetles like the moist and wet and dirt underneath your hives. So if you have your hives just over dirt or lawn or whatever, that is a conducive spot for the hive beetle to thrive. They hatch their eggs, the larvae drop down eggs, and then those eggs hatch, and then they crawl back up into the beehive. So what we've done now is we put down some of our tarp, some of our bulletin board tarp that we like to use around our homestead, and then I put rock over the bulletin board tarp. So what'll happen is, if anything comes out, these hive beetles, when they want to come out and drop to the ground to lay their eggs, they won't be able to get into the dirt and they're going to die off, okay? Another thing that you can do is make sure that the hives are actually in full sun. We had them located a little bit further back down the pasture, and I thought they were going to get a lot of full sun, but it turned out that in the later part of the day, because of the big trees that we have on that side, you know, it was creating some shade for them. So that's another thing that the hive beetles like, is that little bit of shade. So if you can put your hives in full sun, that creates a lot of stress on the hive beetle, which in turn will kill the beetle. If you keep it in the hot, it's just not a conducive place for them to keep growing and multiplying. So one of the things is, when you have hive beetles, a lot of people say, oh, don't worry about them, you know, they'll be okay, and as long as you can get to winter, and then, because in the winter time they'll freeze and they'll die, and then their life cycle will start over, because a lot of them will be in the ground, and then they'll hatch and come back up and redo the thing. Now there have been studies that talk about hive beetles in the hive with the bees, and they actually say that the bees start communicating with the hives and even feeding them. So what you're doing is you're robbing food that's meant for the bees, because the bees get confused by the hive beetle, and then that weakens your hive. Also, if you're going into wintertime and you have a large population of hive beetles, what happens is it prevents and stunts the growth of, they actually have winter bees. So it'll prevent the growth of those winter bees that have more fat on their bodies to help them get through the winter and protect the queen, and that'll compromise the whole hive also. Now one thing before we go is that a lot of times people say, wow, my bees made it through the winter time, and you know, and then I go out in like February or March and they're dead. And so what happens is they'll actually starve to death. Actually, bees will start producing brood in about January, you know, late December, early January, middle of January, depending on where you live and the temperatures. And once they start creating that brood, so normally we leave an extra super on the hive, but it really has turned out to be not beneficial, because the bees, once they start to brood, they will not leave the brood. Their job and their mentality is to protect the brood, because that's new life, and they know that that's what makes the hive strong. And so they will not venture up into a super. They won't go from the bottom of this box up to that box and then up to a super to eat. They're going to stay by that brood. So a new thing that we're going to do this year is we're not going to leave a super on these. We're going to go into winter with just the 2 hive bodies. The big boxes are called hive bodies. The super is a little bit smaller, and that's where you extract your honey from. So we're going to extract all the honey from the bees, and they'll have enough food in here to get them through winter, and then we'll start feeding again early in January after the new year. And then that way, when we put a feeding board in there, they'll only be right there in the hive body, and they'll be able to eat and come right back down. So they're right over their brood the whole time. So if you're doing it the different way, and you know, your mentality is, oh wow, you know, I want to leave some food for the bees, some natural stuff. I mean, that's how we were thinking, and it turns out that it's almost detrimental. It doesn't really help out. So what happens is you end up losing a lot of honey that you could have harvested, and the bees can't use it, and then after it goes through the winter, it crystallizes and it gets harder to use. So then you end up just having these frames full of honey. So your best bet is to just take them off and keep the hive bodies, and then feed your bees right around January, depending on where you are. You can look it up, look this information up, and then you'll probably make it through the winter. So we've implemented this program, and we're losing less hives because of it. A lot of times, I'm telling you, you guys will talk to other beekeepers and they will say, you know, that they made it through the winter. It got warm one day, we checked on them, everything was fine, and then the next thing you know, the whole hive died. And that is probably 99% or 90%. The reason why is because they starved. Also in the early spring, you know, you're getting a lot of rain and it washes the pollen off the flowers. It takes a little while, several days, for the plants to, after the rain, start producing pollen again. So what we have here now are all of our hives are moved. We have the rock down on the ground. We have a tarp. That's going to help with the hive beetle population. Other than that, everybody looks very happy. I'll show you what they look like, and looks like a good mission accomplished. All right, so that's pretty much it for the beehive lesson for today. Don't forget, you know, if you got any bee questions, actually just leave them down below and we'll see if we can't answer them for you. If you just got bees for the first time this year, you probably got a little education from the person you got them from. If not, if they're already in their hive box, the first box, make sure that you let them draw that comb out, that brood, to about 90%. Okay, you don't want to put another box on there if they only have like the middle part filled out. You want to be able to see bees all the way across the inside. Then put the next box on. That'll encourage them to finish what they're doing and then move up into the next box, and that'll result in a healthier hive. Okay, what happens is if you put the box on too soon, especially if you're bringing a box from last year, there could be bugs, moths, any kind of thing like that could be in there or get in there while they're trying to finish their way up and work their way up. Okay, I don't know what else to tell you guys about it. I just wanted to share these ideas about the hive beetle with you guys. If you got any questions, again, leave them down below. We were going to do a live show on Thursday. We had some vehicle problems because, you know, you guys probably know we're going to be at Baker Creek Seed Spring Planting Festival. And Stacy went to work, and then she had major truck issues, so we have the truck in the shop, and we're not going to be able to do a live show on Thursday morning because she's going to be having the vehicle fixed, and we won't be able to resume our normal activities. So I think we are going to do our live show on Friday. Is that right?
Friday, we'll do it Friday 10:30?
Yeah, we'll do it Friday morning, right around probably 10:30, and then we'll hang out with you guys for just a little bit, and then we have a lot of stuff to do to get ready to take off. Don't forget, we're also going to be at the Homesteaders of America conference. Make sure you guys are getting your tickets. We had some people just check into some hotels there, and this particular hotel only had 6 rooms left. So make sure you're making all your travel arrangements and getting ready for that. That's October 14th. Again, all the links are down below. Thanks a lot for watching. If you got any questions, leave them there. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. See you tomorrow.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our video. You might want to check out these videos.
And if you want to become a Homestead Homie, click the picture of us below.
We will see you tomorrow.